In this module, we're going to add the calls in our game mode to update our leaderboard. Recall that we had two leaderboard types, one for the number of wins, which simply means the number of times the user has played, and a second one for the fastest finish in seconds. When we are working through this, know that your own profile can only occupy one space on a leaderboard, and when it is improved, it is overridden with the new value. I'm telling you this because the example that we're going to see in a bit, there will only be one entry, as each time I play, I simply override my previous score if it was better. Okay, let's get started. To start, let's preview in VR and talk about how the leaderboards will work. When we bring up our user settings, navigate over to the leaderboard section. Notice that neither of them are active. If I were to click on number of wins, it will request the data from Oculus for the leaderboard that we had previously made and fill this area with that content. If I press on fastest finish, it will remove the data from number of wins and repeat the process for this second leaderboard. Again, this will only show information from my own rank, but as your project grows in popularity, this leaderboard will fill up with names and additional ranks. With the way that we're going to be setting this up though, it's only going to be able to show our name and our score in this leaderboard. If you wanted to show a worldwide leaderboard, you have to use additional code not available yet in Blueprints, but we'll touch on that in a later module. Let's set up the calls inside of GameMode darts. Create a custom event named update leaderboard with a time span input named game time. Let's create the remaining events before we continue with this one. We'll need one named update leaderboard most wins with an integer input named stat value. Next, another custom event named update leaderboard fastest time. This one will have two inputs. The first one will be a time span named game time, and the second an integer named stat value. Back to the update leaderboard event. Drag from the execution and search for read leaderboard integer. Plug in a reference to our player controller. This will tell our game to contact Oculus and search for a leaderboard in this project named, in our case, UE_LB1, and provide us the stat for our player controller if it can be found. So I'll type UELB1 into the stat name. From onSuccess, call update leaderboard most wins. Add 1 to the leaderboard value and plug the result into stat value. If this happens to be the first entry into this leaderboard, it may fail. So from onFailure, call update leaderboard most wins and set the stat value to 1. From update leaderboard most wins, search for write leaderboard integer and plug the stat value into this node's stat value. Make sure to add the name of your leaderboard into stat name, as well as provide a reference to your player controller. Back up to the update leaderboard event. We need to do the same process with the second leaderboard. From the top execution on the first read leaderboard integer, create another read leaderboard integer and provide it the reference to our player controller. Type in the name of this leaderboard, UE_LB2 for us. On success, call the update leaderboard fastest time. Plug in the game time input from our event into the game time input and the leaderboard value into stat value. Again, from onFailure, repeat the same call to update leaderboard fastest time and plug in our game time, but set the stat value to 999. We're going to make this value the 999th position in the leaderboard, simply because this is sort of a fake leaderboard entry. Okay, down to the update leaderboard fastest time. Drag from game time and search for a less than node. From stat value, search for make time span node and be sure to move the integer value to seconds. plug the result into the less than node. From this result, create a branch. If true, create a write leaderboard integer node. Add the reference to our player controller as well as the name of the leaderboard we are writing to, which again in our case is UELB2. From our game time, search for get total seconds, truncate it, and plug this integer result into stat value. And compile. All right, we have now updated our player's info on the leaderboard. Let's move to our UI and see how the UI was set up to read and write this data onto our UMG. Navigate to Contents, Darts, UI, UMG, Hood, and open WC Hood Leaderboard Display. I won't go into too much detail of how this works, but when it is constructed, it requests the display name of the Oculus user. It then caches it for later use. When update leaderboard is called, it removes all the children that are currently shown, if any. And by that I mean, if there was a leaderboard showing 10 entries, it will remove all 10 of those entries before moving on. It then requests the Oculus identity of the player, and we're going to be using the name. On success, it then requests to read the leaderboard from Oculus and create a new entry for each entry it receives. In its current setup, it will only retrieve our own entry and tell us our score. If you intend to show all the neighboring scores or even the best from all players in the world in your project, you will need to set up a custom C++ source file to access the OVR request leaderboard.h file. As of now, there are no blueprint revealed functions that will allow us to do this. Okay, let's call these functions before testing in VR. Open BP Dartboard and find the start game timer. After we pause the timer by handle, purecast to our game mode to GameMode_darts and call update leaderboard. Plug our new time variable into game time. All right. Let's test in the game stage and play a round of darts. I'm going to press play in VR. Just try and play a quick game. Whoop, if I can even make one score. There we go. So now the game has started. All right. Oh yeah, one more. There we go. Okay, so now it's gonna send me back. And now I'm gonna open up my player settings and find the leaderboards. So, number of wins, I'll click number of wins. Okay, and it says now I've played it 5 times. If I go to fastest finish, I've done it in 23 seconds. 23 seconds is my fastest finish. So, leaderboards are working. In the next module, we're going to be converting our project from a blueprint project to a C++ project, and we'll import a source file that will enable us to use destinations in Unreal Engine.